Lesson number 3 today. If at any point you want to double check something or I'm going too fast, please pause the video because I'm going to show you parts of Desmos and they can go by pretty quickly. So we have these three equations, these three quadratic equations. These are in standard form and they are going to ask for the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts of all three of these equations. So for now, we are going to use Desmos as a setup, and you can plug all of these equations in and the three that we're not going to get to. I'm only doing the first three and the last three. So here you can see if I plugged in all of these to Desmos, it would look like, let me open that window here. So in this instance, this is my first one, and you can see I have x-intercepts here. Let me see. Can I point with it? Yes, here. X-intercepts, y-intercept. That's the first one. And you can punch in all of these equations yourself by hitting X and then remember Shift 6 to get the little up arrow, and then that lets you do the exponent. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one over here, you can see it has a y-intercept of 12. All the way up here, and it has an x-intercept of let's see, 3 and 4, and then the last one we can see has x-intercepts of -5 and -2 with a y-intercept of 10. Okay, so just so you believe me when we go through these, that's all it's for. So you can see here we had a y-intercept of 5, 12, and 10. And that is not a coincidence. So we saw, based on the information that I just gave you, we saw the x-intercepts were -1 and 0. You can go back and check. I'm not lying to you. You had 1 and -5. Here you had 4 and 3. And this one you had -5 and -2. There. Okay, and the y-intercepts are, I'll do it in a different color. Y-intercepts were 5. Y-intercept was 12, if you remember all the way back 30 seconds ago. And we had a y-intercept of 10 as well. Okay, so go back and check if you don't believe, but they're all there. So what we do with this information is see if we can figure out determining x and y intercepts. And you should be able to figure out that the y-intercept is already in standard form somewhere. The y-intercept is already here. So that's why sometimes standard form works really well in identifying things easily. Sometimes factored form identifies things very easily. And then sometimes vertex form identifies things very easily. So if it's asking which point is which so you can graph it, depends on what we've got set up, but there are pluses and minuses to all of them. So for this one you can see the y-intercept is built right into the equation. So if we're looking for a rule to find y-intercepts, let me get this pen. Y-intercept is the last number of the equation, and there's other ways to sort it out, and we'll get to in a second. But you can see here there is no way to tell the x-intercept right away based on these things. If these are my x-intercepts, where are they here? How do I figure that out? Well, first you have to factor it. And we are used to that a little bit, but I think the last unit by factoring these things out. And we're going to use the sum product method, which is where you find two numbers that add together to get the middle number and two numbers that multiply together to get the end number. And by that you should be able to see that would be 5 and 1. Okay, so if I did x plus 1 and x plus 5, and again we can factor these out, which two numbers add together to get -7 but multiply to get 12. We have x, that would be -4 and -3. Okay. And then in this one, add together to get 7, multiply together to get 10. That would be 5 and 2. Okay, so now I have my factored form. These are factored form, whereas this is standard form. Factored form, standard form. Okay, so looking at this setup now, if I factored it, I can tell the x-intercepts. But what do you notice about these x-intercepts that is a little different from what I have set up here? It looks so close to the same, but it's a little bit different. So close, but a little bit different. And what you should be able to figure out is that it's basically just the opposite of whatever this number is here. The opposite of this is this. The opposite of this is this. So same number, opposite sign. And I'm going to add that to my rules down here. For x-intercept, same number, opposite sign. Okay, so if we were to go back here, you can tell that that makes sense. Same number, opposite sign. Same number, opposite sign. And if you plug in -1 to instead of x and -5 instead of x, do you know what number you would get? 0, which is why they call them zeros, right? Just a little helpful tip to remember that. So knowing all of this, I can tell you just by looking at factored form what my x's are, but not right away what the y-intercept is. Unless, looking at these things in factored form, I can just multiply these numbers together, right? Because -4 times -3 is 12, which is my y-intercept. So we have 2 ways to find y-intercept, but really one key way to find the x-intercepts. X-intercept, have it in factored form, same numbers, opposite sign. Y-intercept is either the last part of standard form or when you multiply these together. Okay, you multiply the end part of the x's. Multiply your x's. I don't know what I was writing there. X's. All right, let's see how it works with a little different format, and maybe it'll become a little easier for you. Okay, so here now I'm giving it to you in factored form. In factored form. So I don't have to put it into Desmos. I can just look at this and use my rules that I had before. So the opposite sign, same number, is my x-intercept. So I could tell you that my x-intercept here would definitely be 2, 0, and 5, 0. Guaranteed, because 5 minus 5 is 0. We'd be safe there. And keep in mind, these are the last 3 on the second page. If you're confused as to where I jumped to, I just edited it down. You could practice with the rest of it, so I don't waste your time. Same thing here. Let's try this out. My x-intercept would be -6 and 8. Pretty clean. Okay, whatever the opposite is. And for this one, I chose this one because it's a bit tricky. But all this means is x plus 6 times x plus 6, right? And so here you can see it's -6, 0. That is my x-intercept right there. Easy. And for y-intercept, remember you just multiply those numbers together. So 6 times 6, my y-intercept is 36, or more specifically 0.36. What is -2 times -5? That would be 0.10. And +6 times -8, that would be 0.48. And if you graph that to check, which I recommend that you do, you could put it in this form and it would still understand what you want to do. You don't have to worry about shift 6 to make an exponent. Plug it in just like this and it'll give you a parabola, and you'll be able to find the x-intercepts are these and the y-intercept is this. So nice and easy. For y-intercept in standard form versus factored form, I give me the opposite and for the x's, and I multiply these for the y. This is my x, these are my y. I hope that is helpful. Get started on the homework, get practicing, and I'll check in with you soon. Leave the questions in the D2L comments.